Lastly, there's another approach to your free project. If you prefer to sculpt some kind of creature or animal, that's always a crowd pleaser. And some students do well with animal sculpting, other students struggle with it. So it's just kind of, your preference, your choice. I'm going to be making a bird in this video, and I've got a ball of clay that will create the bird body, and then I have this small slab, a tortilla thin slab, a little bit bigger than my hand, and that slab will produce 2 wings for the bird that I will stick on. I will slip and score and attach, and some additional details like eyes and a beak. But this ball of clay is the bird body. I'm going to take a solid ball of clay, and this is a little bit bigger than a golf ball, and I'm just using the clay, fingertips, and water to essentially sculpt. A lot of times sculpting doesn't always involve tools. It's literally clay, a pinching technique with your fingertips, and water. So I'm kind of like roughing out almost like a 3-dimensional sketch, like I'm doing a rough draft. So I'm roughing out the overall shape of the bird body. I've got tail feathers, a head is emerging, and then I'm going to kind of create like an arch, like a curvature along the top of the bird, basically in the distance between the tail feathers and the head. So this will be kind of a plump bird. I'm going to tap it on the tabletop, as you see here, so that it's steady and stable. I'm not going to add any legs or anything, talons, nothing like that. So it's just going to kind of balance on the table. Now I'm pretty happy with the overall shape of the bird. So I'm cutting out a sample wing. I'm just kind of mapping out a wing shape. And I'm going to test this out and see if it's going to fit well. And if I like it, I'll make a twin using the remainder of the slab. So this appears to be a little too big for my liking. The wing is a little disproportionate in comparison to the bird body. So I need to edit that and make it a little bit smaller. That wing is just too large in size. Shape is good, but it's a little too large in size. So that's much better. That's a little bit more proportionate. So like I said, when you make one wing, trace around it on your scrap slab and make a second wing based off of the first wing. So I'm literally going to trace around it. That way I'll get 2 wings that are twinning and matchy-matchy. That's what we want. 2 matchy-matchy wings. I'm going to add some details to those wings and the tail feathers and the face and the head in just a little bit. Now the wings don't have to be 100% matching, but just come pretty darn close. So when you're happy with the wings, slip and score them on. Anytime you attach clay to clay, you need to slip and score, especially with this classroom clay. It's really important. So scratch that bird body up pretty well, score it up well. Add your water or slip, and then do the same thing to the back of the wing. Score that up really well. You don't want a wing or both wings detaching from the bird body, so you want a good bond between these pieces of clay. And these wings are just basically little baby slabs, little small slabs that I'm attaching to the sculpted bird body. So I'm happy with that placement. Now I'm just kind of taking my fingertip and rounding off the edges so the wing is not jagged and rough. I'm just cleaning it up, the wing that is. And now I'm going to blend a little bit with a popsicle stick. I'm definitely blending most of the wing, but I don't think I want to blend the entire wing. Kind of want to leave the back of the wing unblended on purpose so it looks, even more 3D. So it's partially blended. And I'll do the same thing on the other side with the other wing. But for right now, I'm just kind of working on this side. Now I'm going to take my paperclip tool and I'm going to mark out like feather texture. Now, when you carve with a paperclip tool, the carvings look kind of harsh and severe, like scratch marks. So what you want to do instead is soften up those lines, and you do that with a damp paintbrush. You push out most of the water from the paintbrush and you kind of clean up and clean out your lines, soften them up so they look more natural and not like these harsh scratches that I just had a second ago. And now while I'm at it, I'm going to add some feather texture to the back of the bird, the tail feathers. And I'm again creating kind of these rough scratch marks, so I'm softening that up with a paintbrush so it looks more natural, and also so I won't like scratch myself when this gets bisque fired. That could be kind of harsh on your fingertips when you go to hold this. So again, I need to do the same thing, add a wing on the other side, but I'll do that later. For right now, I'm just focusing on the side you can see. Now I'm making an eye socket for an eyeball, and to make an eyeball, a 3D eyeball, you simply roll out a teeny tiny sphere, a teeny tiny ball of clay. I mean, it's itty bitty, smaller than my pinky fingernail. And you're going to drop that ball of clay in the eye socket, but you kind of need to slip and score the eye socket too, which is tricky. So poke some holes, force some water in the eye socket, and then poke some holes on the back of the eyeball, get a little water, and it should drop in. Now, if that's not happening, you need to make your eye socket a little bit bigger, as I'm doing right now, because you want that eyeball to be very snug and kind of fitted down inside the eye socket. That's a better fit. And it's not too 3D. The eyeball isn't bugging out. And I always like to do a little water seal to make sure those two pieces, those two areas bond. And now it's time to make a beak. And I'm just still working with scrap clay. And for the beak, I'm going to kind of pinch the clay so that I create a cone shape, kind of like a spike or a cone shape, and just do a pinching technique. Again, no tools, just clay, water, and fingertips. That's essential sculpting right there. Very limited materials. And then slice off the back of the cone so it's nice and flat and easy to stick onto the bird face. So you're going to take the flat area and you're going to slip and square that on. I'm just testing it out right now to see if I like that beak. And it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I can maybe edit it later, but for the most part, that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to slip and score the beak onto the bird face. And I still have to remember to add that other wing too. But again, I'll do that later. All right, so now it's time to officially attach the beak. That's looking pretty good. Do a little water seal, make sure the beak stays on. And I'm pretty happy with that. Got to add that other wing. But I like that. I think that's kind of an interesting little bird sculpture. Now, I can make it functional and more than just a sculpture if I wanted to. I can turn this into almost like a Christmas ornament if it's not too heavy, or, you know, like a wall hanging, although it'd be better as a Christmas ornament. It might stick out weird hanging on a wall. For a Christmas ornament, though, you need to add a little loop where you can tie ribbon through. So you take a coil and you just shape it into like a loop shape, and then you would slip and score that onto the top of the bird. Now it's automatically a Christmas ornament and it can hang. But again, you just have to factor in weight. If it's too heavy, I wouldn't recommend it. Another option is to make this a bit of a candle holder, specifically a tea light candle holder. And in order to do that, you have to take your paperclip tool and you have to scoop out a pit so that your candle holder, your tea light, has a place to sit, kind of down in the top of the bird. Okay, so I'm making like a well. It's called a well or a pit. And you know, this is a solid piece of clay, so I have quite a bit of carving to do. But you would just kind of scoop out as much as you need to make that tea light fit, and I'll show you a photo of that later so you can see how that looks. But that's another option. So you can leave this as a sculpture or a Christmas ornament or a tea light holder.